A nightmare in Neo-Wenatchee. The towering city of Neo-Wenatchee, a cyberpunk metropolis nestled high in the mountains, buzzed under a ceaseless downpour. Rain drummed against the flickering neon signs, washing down the grimy streets where whispers of Scarlet, a new drug sweeping through the underworld, drifted in every corner. No one knew who made it or where it came from, but the desperate flocked to it. They wanted escape, strength, invincibility. But they were blind to the danger. Liam had learned to keep his distance from people. He made enough to scrape by doing odd jobs in Neo-Wenatchee's underbelly, navigating the maze of legal but morally grey opportunities that passed for work in a city driven by corruption. He wasn't cold, he just knew better than to get close. That night the rain was heavy, and the city felt heavier. He ducked beneath an overhang to light a cigarette, taking a moment to survey the streets below. It was always the same. Neon-drenched chaos. People huddling together or scurrying in the shadows, trying to outrun something, maybe themselves. A loud crash broke his momentary focus. Laughter, high-pitched, manic, followed by the unmistakable clatter of metal trash bins. Liam frowned and moved toward the sound, cautious but curious. He kept to the shadows until he found them. A group of teens clustered around a small fire, passing around a vial filled with thick, dark red liquid. Scarlet. He watched as they egged each other on, one by one taking a sip or a hit with a syringe. It was always the same, reckless excitement at first, followed by something darker, more dangerous. One kid, barely more than 16, jabbed a needle into his arm. His pupils dilated instantly, his face twisting into a contorted smile, his body shuddering with raw energy. Liam knew what came next. He'd seen it too many times in the last few weeks. He turned away, fading back into the shadows, not wanting to see the inevitable fallout. But as he walked, the image stuck with him. Scarred faces, twisted smiles, eyes that glowed with a strange natural light. Weeks passed, and Scarlet spread like wildfire. The city was changing. Liam noticed the users. Some looked almost normal, but had an edge of aggression, the ones they called juice jockeys. They were violent, unpredictable, but still human. Then there were the others, the ones who injected the drug. They started to twist, to change. Their skin stretched thin, veins crawling like dark webs underneath. Their eyes turned red, and they began to hunt. Liam saw them lurking in the shadows, barely recognizable as the people they once were. Rumor had it that Scarlet wasn't just a street drug. It was something more, a failed experiment. A third-party corporate state, Ventec, had been contracted to create a super soldier serum for the military. But something went wrong. The side effects were catastrophic, and Ventec dumped the project in the black market, hoping it would fade into the underworld without a trace. Liam didn't want anything to do with it. He wasn't stupid enough to mess with that kind of poison. But one thing nagged at him. He had taken something before, something he couldn't shake. He didn't like to think about it. He hadn't taken Scarlet, but there was something different about him. His senses were sharper, his reflexes quicker. He'd been clean for months, but deep down, he knew his body wasn't. One night, as Liam cut through a rain-soaked alley, he heard it. A soft sobbing, barely audible over the rain. He hesitated. People got hurt all the time in Neo-Wenatchee. Helping meant getting involved, and getting involved always ended badly. But something pulled him forward. He found her huddled against a wall, shaking, her arms wrapped tightly around herself. Her name was Maya. She looked up at him with wide, frightened eyes, the dark veins crawling beneath her pale skin giving her away. She was on Scarlet. She clutched her arm, the puncture marks still fresh. "I thought I could stop," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I thought one more hit would be the last." Her face was filled with shame, the kind Liam knew all too well. "They'll come for me," she added, her voice breaking. "They can smell it on me." Liam didn't need to ask who they were. He had seen the twisted figures stalking the streets. The blood jockeys. The final horrifying evolution of Scarlet users who lost their humanity. They could sense those who had used the drug, hunting them like predators. "Get up," Liam muttered, pulling Maya to her feet. They needed to move, fast. They ran through the twisted alleys of Neo-Wenatchee, dodging juice jockeys and avoiding the more populated areas. Liam knew the city well, but they couldn't outrun the danger forever. The streets were alive with chaos. People screamed in the distance. The sound of breaking glass echoed from nearby buildings. The blood jockeys were close. Liam could feel it, a prickling sensation creeping down his spine. They ducked into an abandoned warehouse, the rain finally letting up. Liam locked the door behind them and took a deep breath. For a moment it was quiet. Maya leaned against a wall, her breath ragged. "Why are you helping me?" she asked, her eyes searching his face. Liam hesitated. He didn't know why. Maybe he saw a part of himself in her. Maybe he was tired of watching people get lost to the darkness of Neo-Wenatchee. "You need to stop running," he said finally, "or you'll end up like them." She looked down at her hands, her fingers trembling. "I didn't want to. It wasn't supposed to be like this." Liam nodded. "It never is." As they talked, Maya opened up. She hadn't meant to get hooked. Like everyone, she'd been sold the dream that Scarlet was the answer to her problems. A little strength, a little confidence, and suddenly you could survive in Neo-Wenatchee. But the drug had its own agenda. Suddenly, the tension broke. The door exploded inward, sending debris flying. A third figure appeared, a heavily armored officer, Agent Corin. He was part of the city's law enforcement, but he wasn't here to save them. Neo-Wenatchee's cops were owned by Ventec. "Step aside," Corin growled, his eyes fixed on Maya. "She's not going anywhere. She's property now." Liam tensed, his body reacting before his mind could catch up. He lunged, grabbing a broken pipe from the ground. Corin was fast, but Liam was faster. A sickening realization hit him. This was the effect of his own tainted past with a purer, secret version of Scarlet. He wasn't clean. He was a modified version of everything Ventec was trying to create. The fight was brutal, and though Liam managed to fend off Corin, the officer wasn't backing down. Maya, with newfound resolve, smashed a neon sign above, the shards raining down on Corin, giving them just enough time to escape. After the chaos, Liam and Maya sat on a rooftop, catching their breath. "You fought like them," Maya whispered. Liam looked down, flexing his hands. He could feel the raw energy coursing through him, a power he hadn't asked for. "It's the same thing, isn't it? Just a different version." "Yeah," Liam admitted, "but I didn't let it control me." Maya looked at him, a flicker of hope in her eyes. Maybe I can stop running too." Liam nodded. "It's not too late, but we've got to be smart." As the first light of dawn broke over Neo-Wenatchee, they realized they had a choice: to fight back against the system that had poisoned their city or keep running. Either way, nothing would ever be the same.